My brother slept with my girlfriend while I was in rehab, so I sent screenshots to the whole family and blocked them both forever without a word. I'm a 27-year-old guy, and this story begins during the worst and what I thought was the most hopeful time of my life. 2 months ago, I walked into a rehab center with nothing but a duffel bag and a shaking body still recovering from my last binge. I had hit rock bottom a week before, waking up in the ER with my mother crying next to me and the taste of charcoal still in my mouth. They said it was a near overdose. I said it was a mistake, but deep down I knew it wasn't. I decided I needed help, real help. Not a half-hearted attempt, not a maybe next time promise. I was ready to get sober, even if it meant being completely cut off from the outside world. No drinking. No smoking. Limited phone calls. Just me and my demons. Cammie was the only reason I hesitated. We'd been together for 2 years. She was the first person who made me feel like I wasn't broken beyond repair. When I told her I was going to rehab, her eyes welled up, not with judgment, but with pride. "I'll be here when you get out," she said. "We'll get through this together." And Nate, my older brother, the one person I always looked up to, patted me on the back before I left. "I'll check on her," he said. "You just focus on getting better." I remember thinking how lucky I was. I had people in my corner. I had hope, but looking back, I was just naive. I didn't realize then that while I was preparing to fight for my life, they were preparing to betray me in the most intimate, unforgivable way. And the worst part? The rehab walls kept the toxins out, but they couldn't keep the lies from slipping in. During rehab, we were allowed 1 phone call a week, 10 minutes, monitored by staff, and always with someone standing close enough to remind you that your trust had to be earned back. The first few calls with Cammie felt warm, hopeful. She told me she missed me, that she was proud of me, that she couldn't wait to see me clean and healthy. But even in those early calls, I noticed something small, a shift in her tone. Like she was performing affection, not feeling it. By week 3, I started hearing Nate's name a lot more than I expected. "Your brother helped me fix the kitchen sink," she said once. "He dropped off dinner," she added another time. Then one day she laughed and said, "We started watching that show you and I never finished. He got me hooked." It should have bothered me more. Maybe it did. But I was in a fragile place, trying to rebuild myself brick by shaky brick, and the last thing I needed was to spiral into jealousy. So I told myself it was sweet. He was just looking out for her. That's what big brothers do, right? But it kept happening. She mentioned inside jokes they'd made. How he took her to a movie when she was feeling down. How Nate's been really great through all this. Each time she said his name, it felt like a pebble being dropped into my stomach. A slow, dull weight building inside me. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to seem insecure. But something about the way she said his name started to feel like she was testing the water, waiting to see if I'd noticed the temperature rising. And God, I noticed. I just didn't know how hot it was going to get. Rehab wasn't easy. On the outside, I've always been the guy who cracked jokes, played it cool, kept things light even when everything inside me was burning. But here, there was nowhere to hide. The first week, I barely spoke. I sat through group sessions with my arms crossed, giving short answers and fake smiles. But the truth has a way of bleeding out when you're surrounded by people just as broken as you. One day during group therapy, we were asked to talk about the person we trust the most. I broke down. Right there. In front of 8 strangers and a counselor with kind eyes, I sobbed like a kid. I told them about Cammie, how she was the only stable thread in my life when everything else unraveled. How she stayed when others left. How she held my hand through withdrawal, even when I yelled, even when I shook. I told them I didn't know if I deserved her, but I wanted to earn her. I admitted things I never told anyone, not even her. That I had abandonment issues going back to childhood. That every time someone walked out, a part of me stayed stuck at the door they slammed. That I had never truly trusted anyone until her. Later that night, I wrote Cammie a letter I couldn't send. I told her I was getting better for her. That I wanted to come home and make things right. I even said I was thinking about proposing. A few days later, in a private session, I told my group therapist that I wanted Nate to be my best man when I proposed. She smiled gently and said, "That's beautiful." I smiled too, but I didn't know I was setting the stage for my own heartbreak. I didn't know I was choosing the villain to stand beside me on the biggest day of my life. I was supposed to get out in 60 days. I made it in 50. The counselor said my progress was remarkable. My blood work was clean, I'd completed every session, and I'd started mentoring a couple of the newer guys. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself. Like I was finally becoming the man I'd promised Cammy I could be. They offered to call my emergency contact to arrange pickup. I told them not to bother. I had a plan. I wanted to surprise her. I imagined walking through the door, clean-shaven and sober, watching her eyes light up as she realized I was home early. I imagined wrapping my arms around her and whispering, I kept my promise. Maybe we'd cry. Maybe we'd laugh. Maybe I'd pull out the ring I had hidden in my backpack. So I signed my discharge papers, grabbed my bag, and called a cab. The drive to her apartment felt like the longest ride of my life. I kept checking my reflection in the window, trying to practice what I'd say. Hey, baby, I'm home. No, too dramatic. Miss me? Too cheesy. You're looking at the new me. That one made me smile. I turned the corner onto her street, heart pounding, and then I saw it. Nate's car. Parked in her driveway. Middle of the day. His old silver Mustang, the one with the dented side mirror I helped him fix when we were teens. I sat frozen in the cab, stomach dropping. My first thought was, maybe it's a coincidence, and then I looked up. Through the front window, curtains half drawn, I saw them. Cammy, Nate, on the couch. Her legs in his lap, his hand on her thigh, smiling, comfortable, like I never existed. I was supposed to get out in 60 days. I made it in 50. The counselor said my progress was remarkable. My blood work was clean, I'd completed every session, and I'd started mentoring a couple of the newer guys. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself. Like I was finally becoming the man I'd promised Cammy I could be. They offered to call my emergency contact to arrange pickup. I told them not to bother. I had a plan. I wanted to surprise her. I imagined walking through the door, clean-shaven and sober, watching her eyes light up as she realized I was home early. I imagined wrapping my arms around her and whispering, I kept my promise. Maybe we'd cry. Maybe we'd laugh. Maybe I'd pull out the ring I had hidden in my backpack. So I signed my discharge papers, grabbed my bag, and called a cab. The drive to her apartment felt like the longest ride of my life. I kept checking my reflection in the window, trying to practice what I'd say. Hey, baby, I'm home. No, too dramatic. Miss me? Too cheesy. You're looking at the new me. That one made me smile. I turned the corner onto her street, heart pounding, and then I saw it. Nate's car. Parked in her driveway. Middle of the day. His old silver Mustang, the one with the dented side mirror I helped him fix when we were teens. I sat frozen in the cab, stomach dropping. My first thought was, maybe it's a coincidence, and then I looked up. Through the front window, curtains half drawn, I saw them. Cammy, Nate, on the couch. Her legs in his lap, his hand on her thigh, smiling, comfortable, like I never existed. That night in the motel, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the image of them on the couch, her laugh, his hand, their ease like this had been going on for weeks, maybe months. I stared at the cracked ceiling, trying to convince myself it was a one-time mistake. A lapse in judgment, something they'd explain away in some messed-up apology. But a voice inside me, the same one I used to drown with vodka, whispered, "You already know the truth," so I opened my phone. The battery was barely hanging on, but I didn't care. I pulled up our old group chat, me, Cammy, and Nate. We used it for dumb memes, weekend plans, inside jokes. It had been quiet for weeks, but I started scrolling up anyway. Then I saw it. A file. One I didn't remember sending. It was a screenshot, probably saved there by mistake, of a text thread between Nate and Cammy. My heart dropped. His messages were flirty. Casual at first. You looked amazing today. I still think about that night. And then they got worse. Graphic. Emotional. Like, this wasn't just a fling. It was something layered. Familiar. The kind of language two people use when they've had more than one night alone. I checked the timestamps. The first messages were sent before I entered rehab. Before my goodbye kiss. Before his fake promise to look after her. And then I saw the one that made my stomach twist. He won't find out. He's locked away, lol. That wasn't a mistake. That was cruelty. My hands were shaking. Rage, grief, disgust. I took screenshots of everything. Every line, every date, every digital knife they had stabbed me with, and for the first time in days, I felt something other than pain. I felt purpose. I knew exactly what I was going to do next. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there in the dim yellow light of that motel room, scrolling through the messages over and over, memorizing the betrayal. My hand hovered over the phone, but I didn't call either of them. I didn't want apologies. I didn't want lies wrapped in guilt. I wanted silence. I wanted them to hear it, so I copied the screenshots. Not all of them, just the worst ones. The ones that made their affair undeniable. The timestamp that proved it started before I left. The message where Nate called me a soft drunk. The one where Cammie said she felt free with him. Then I opened our family group chat. Mom, Dad, our younger sister. A few cousins. The people who had always seen Nate as the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. I didn't type a word. No intro, no backstory, no anger, just the screenshots, one after another. It was quiet for about a minute. Then the typing bubbles started to pop up. What the hell is this? Please tell me this is fake. Nate? I didn't answer. I backed out of the chat. Then I went to my contacts and started blocking. Nate first. Then Cammie. I blocked their numbers, their socials, their emails. I deleted every photo, every message, every trace of them from my phone. Then I powered it off. I didn't want closure. I didn't want a showdown. I just wanted them to sit in the wreckage they caused. To feel what it's like to be blindsided, betrayed, humiliated, in front of people who thought they were good. They made me feel invisible for months. Now they'd feel what it's like when I vanish for real. When I turned my phone back on the next morning. It was like lighting a fuse. Missed calls, 42. Texts, over 100. Voicemails, DMs, emails, even a few messages from people I hadn't talked to in years. The family group chat had exploded overnight. I scrolled through it like I was watching a car crash in slow motion. My mom was hysterical, spamming question marks, typing in all caps. How long? Is this real? Tell me this isn't what it looks like. My dad didn't say much, but what he did say hit harder than anything. I'm ashamed of both of you. My little sister, bless her heart, called me 6 times in a row. When I finally listened to one of her voicemails, she was crying. I swear I didn't know. I would have told you. Please call me. But the best part, the most satisfying part, was watching Nate and Cammie flail in panic. Nate called me 27 times. 27. He sent walls of text, switching between denial and desperation. It wasn't what it looked like. Let's talk like men. Don't ruin the family over a mistake. Cammie's messages came through like a slow collapse. Please let me explain. It didn't mean anything. I still love you. That one almost made me laugh, almost, but I didn't respond. Not once, not a single letter. Because they weren't asking for forgiveness. They were begging for escape, from guilt, from shame, from the fire I lit with their own matches, and honestly, watching them burn themselves in front of everyone they once impressed felt better than any revenge I could have planned. My silence said more than their 1,000 words ever could. A few weeks passed. I was off the grid. No social media, no family dinners, no updates. Just work, therapy, and silence. I was trying to piece together a new version of myself without the 2 people I thought were my foundation. And just when I thought I was finally settling into the numbness, I got a message from my cousin Ryan. Hey man, can I talk to you for a second? He was one of the few people I didn't block. We hadn't been close, but he was at every Thanksgiving, every barbecue. He called me late one night, and after a long pause, he said something I'll never forget. I thought you already knew. This isn't the first time they got weird. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, trying to figure out what the hell he meant. He told me that a couple years back, when I was dating someone else, Alyssa, he saw Nate getting handsy with her at a New Year's Eve party. Nothing outright physical, but too close, he said. Too comfortable. When he asked Nate about it, Nate just laughed it off. Alyssa broke up with me a month later. I never knew why. Then he told me about Cammie, how she always lit up around Nate, how she'd once joked at a family event that maybe she picked the wrong brother. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but now it felt like the joke was always on me. I'd spent years blindfolded by love and loyalty. I thought rehab was where I'd been at my weakest, but the truth was, I'd been weak long before that. I just didn't know I was the only one playing fair. This wasn't a one-time betrayal. It was a setup I was too loyal to see coming. They say rock bottom is waking up in a detox ward with IVs in your arm and your life flashing in pieces. But that wasn't mine. My real rock bottom came later. Quiet, sober, and completely alone. After the truth came out and the chaos settled, I thought I'd feel something. Relief, validation, closure. But all I felt was hollow. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left the shell standing. I didn't relapse, not with alcohol, but I spiraled into something else entirely. I stopped answering calls from anyone, even the people who said they were on my side. I ignored my sister's texts, left voicemails from my mom unheard. Everyone wanted to check in, to offer love, to say, "You're better off without them." But I didn't want their sympathy. I didn't want their words. I wanted the time back, the years I spent trusting liars. One night, I stood in my kitchen, holding the engagement ring in my hand, the same one that had sat in my pocket on the cab ride to her house. I opened the trash can and dropped it in like it was nothing. It made a soft thud against a pile of paper towels. That sound stayed in my ears for days. I moved cities a week later. No warning, no goodbye. I packed a suitcase and vanished. I changed my number, deleted my social accounts, got a job bussing tables under a fake name just so I could disappear without anyone tracking me down. I ghosted life itself. I stopped trusting people. Any kindness felt like bait. Any compliment felt rehearsed. I questioned every memory, every smile, every "I love you" I'd ever heard. Rehab taught me how to forgive myself, but it never prepared me for the betrayal that came after I got clean. It never taught me how to heal from people who were supposed to love me the most. Months passed. At first, the days bled together. Just work, eat, sleep, repeat. But little by little, things started to shift. I got hired at a sober living nonprofit. They didn't care about my past, only that I could show up, stay clean, and be honest. It felt good to be somewhere that didn't treat me like a failure or a victim, just a guy trying to do better. I started running again. Nothing fancy, just a mile at first, then 2. I liked the rhythm, the quiet, the way my breath and footsteps drowned out everything else. It became my therapy when I couldn't afford one. One afternoon, I walked past a shelter and locked eyes with this mangy little mutt in the corner kennel, ears too big for his head, tail wagging like he hadn't given up on people yet. I took him home the next day, named him Rusty. He sleeps beside me every night like it's his job to keep the nightmares away. I made new friends, people who only knew me as the guy who liked corny jokes and made great coffee. They didn't ask about my past and I didn't offer it. For once, I got to just be. Then one morning, there was a letter in my mailbox. No return address, just my name and handwriting I hadn't seen since childhood. Nate. I held it for a long time. Part of me wanted to tear it open, let myself get dragged back into the storm, but instead I walked straight to the kitchen, turned on the stove, and fed it to the flame. The paper curled, blackened, and vanished. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need his explanation. The silence was the closure. 1 year later, I stood barefoot on a quiet beach, a salty breeze brushing through my hair, the sun just beginning to dip below the horizon. In my hands was a small, slightly lopsided cake from a grocery store, white frosting, blue letters that read, "1 year clean." Around me were 5 people, just 5, but each one had shown up when I had nothing to offer. No stories, no status, just me. They were from my meetings, my job, my new life. A waitress who taught me to meditate, a veteran who shared his relapse and started over anyway, a single mom who called me her safe space. There was no champagne, no confetti, no big celebration. But it was more real than anything I ever had with my so-called family. No one asked where I came from. No one mentioned Nate or Cammy or the way I'd vanished from the world for almost a year. They didn't need to, because these people, they were my chosen family, and they knew how to stay. I lit one candle. Just one. Not for wishes, those felt dangerous now. But as a symbol, a flicker of everything I'd survived. I closed my eyes, held Rusty's leash in one hand, and breathed in the ocean air. I didn't forgive Nate. I didn't forgive Cammy. And that's okay, because healing, I've learned, isn't about handing out forgiveness to people who never earned it. It's not about letting them back in. It's about building a life so solid, so grounded, that even if they came back today, they couldn't touch it. I'm not who I was in that rehab bed. I'm not the guy who begged for loyalty from liars. I'm someone new now. And this quiet, unshakable peace is the loudest revenge I'll ever need.